All right, you dipshits, welcome back to another deep dive. And let me tell you, today we're going deep, deep into the shithole that is megacities. We're talking about those concrete jungles crammed with more people than a goddamn Walmart on Black Friday. Seriously, who in their right mind thought cramming millions of people into one place was a good idea? I mean, was there a sale on personal space we missed? Anyway, we've got a stack of articles here, mostly Wikipedia, because let's be real, who the fuck has time for actual research? And we're going to try to make sense of this urban clusterfuck with the help of our resident expert.
Well, it's certainly a fascinating subject.
Cut the crap, Professor. We both know megacities are a disaster waiting to happen. First off, there are apparently like 81 cities with over 5 million people. That's more people than some goddamn countries. And the worst part is they can't even agree on what the hell a city actually is. It's like they just pulled these definitions out of their asses.
Well, there are different ways to define a city, and that can create some confusion.
Confusion. More like a fucking shit show.
Yeah.
So let's break this down. What are these different definitions?
First, you have the city proper. That's the legal boundary of a city.
Sounds simple enough.
Right.
Until you get to China, where a city can be the size of fucking Austria, but mostly full of rice paddies and shit.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that about?
It's a unique approach to urban planning.
Unique. More like batshit crazy. All right, what's the next definition in this urban dictionary of bullshit?
Then there's the urban area, which focuses on the actual built-up space, ignoring the political boundaries. This makes more sense from a geographical perspective, but it's still hard to compare cities because every country seems to have its own way of measuring it.
So it's basically a giant mess. No one can agree on what the hell they're talking about. There's another one, right? The metropolitan area.
Yes, that's right.
The hell is that one?
This definition takes into account the entire urban sprawl, the city itself, the suburbs, and everyone who commutes in for work.
The suburbs. Where the dreams go to die and the traffic jams never end. Seriously, why do we even care about this definition?
Well, comparing cities using different definitions is like comparing apples and oranges. It's misleading and can lead to some pretty absurd conclusions.
So like saying that a city full of farmers is actually a megacity.
Exactly. Take Chongqing, for example.
That's that Chinese farm city, right?
Precisely. It's technically the largest city proper by population, but 70% of its residents are farmers. Not exactly the image that pops into your head when you hear the term megacity, is it?
Nah, more like a giant episode of Green Acres. All right, Professor, enough with the wannabe cities. Let's get to the real heavy hitters, the cities that are actually urban, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are the biggest cities based on actual concrete and chaos?
Well, according to the UN's 2018 estimates, Tokyo takes the top spot with a mind-blowing 37.7 million people crammed into that concrete jungle.
Holy shit, that's like cramming the entire population of Canada into a space the size of Rhode Island.
Yeah.
All right, what about the rest of the top 10? Give us the rundown on these urban monsters.
Well, after Tokyo, you have Delhi with 32.2 million, then Shanghai with 24 million. Then there's Sao Paulo, Mexico City, Cairo, Mumbai, Beijing, Dhaka, and Osaka, rounding out the top 10.
Jesus, that's a lot of people. Talk about a recipe for disaster. What makes these cities so damn special?
Well, each one has its own unique set of challenges, but I guess you could also say charms.
Charms. You're being generous, Professor, but okay, I'll bite.
Well, Tokyo is notorious for its insane population density.
Yeah, I heard you can practically smell your neighbor's breakfast in Tokyo. No thanks.
Then you have Delhi, which has been experiencing explosive growth in recent years. That puts a huge strain on infrastructure and resources.
More people, more problems, right? What about Shanghai? What's their claim to fame?
Shanghai is a behemoth in terms of its municipal area. It covers a massive amount of land, although its population density isn't quite as extreme as Tokyo's.
So like a sprawling concrete monster.
You could say.
Okay, so we've got Tokyo packed like a sardine can, Delhi bursting at the seams, and Shanghai sprawled out like a giant octopus. What about the rest of these urban monsters?
Well, managing megacities like Lagos and Kinshasa presents a whole different set of challenges.
Yeah, I bet. Poverty, crime, corruption, the whole shebang, right?
Those are certainly pressing issues in many rapidly developing megacities.
Speaking of overwhelming sights, you know that Wikipedia article has a gallery of pictures of these cities. Some of them are pretty damn impressive, gotta admit. It's wild to think humans actually built all that. Makes you wonder about the future of these megacities. What kind of fresh hell awaits these urban sprawls in the coming decades?
Ah, yes. The future of megacities is a topic rife with speculation and, I must admit, some trepidation.
Trepidation. You're being way too polite, Professor. So spill the beans. What's the outlook for these urban behemoths?
Well, last we left off, you were sweating bullets over the future of these megacities.
Well, yeah, it's not exactly a walk in the park picturing millions of people crammed into a concrete jungle, is it?
I wouldn't say it's all doom and gloom.
All right, Professor, lay it on me. But if you start with that hippy-dippy crap about sustainable living and singing Kumbaya, I'm out of here.
Don't worry, I'm not going to pull out the hemp sandals and start chanting. But there are some serious issues these megacities got to deal with, and one of them is, well, sustainability.
Sustainability? Seriously? You think you can make a city with more people than some countries sustainable? That's a load of bullshit.
You'd be surprised.
Okay, how?
Think about it. They are getting pretty creative with urban agriculture these days. Rooftop gardens, vertical farms, even hydroponics.
Tomatoes on skyscrapers. Sounds like some futuristic sci-fi crap.
It's not just about looking cool, though I'll admit it does. It's about cutting down transportation costs, increasing food security, and making these concrete wastelands a bit greener.
Okay, I can get behind the whole urban farming thing. But what about all the trash? Where the hell do they put all the garbage produced by millions of people? They must have mountains of this stuff.
Waste management is a huge challenge, no doubt. But some cities are coming up with some pretty cool solutions, like advanced recycling programs and even waste-to-energy technology.
Wait, waste to energy? What the hell is that? Sounds like something out of a Frankenstein movie.
It's pretty simple, actually. They basically burn trash at really high temperatures to create electricity.
So they're burning trash to power their cities. Damn, that's kind of badass. What about energy in general? These megacities must suck up power like a bunch of energy vampires.
Well, they do consume a lot of energy, that's for sure, but lots of cities are shifting towards renewable energy sources, things like solar panels, wind turbines, even geothermal energy.
Okay, so they're trying to kick their fossil fuel habit. That's cool. But can these cities handle the sheer number of people using all this stuff? We're talking about millions of people packed into a tiny space. It's like a goddamn ant farm gone wild.
That brings us to infrastructure, a vital piece of the megacity puzzle. And transportation is key, Lots of these cities are investing in public transport, expanding metro and bus networks, and even building dedicated bike lanes.
Bike lanes. Are you kidding me? You'd be roadkill in 5 seconds trying to ride a bike in one of those cities.
It's not just about bikes. Some cities are experimenting with self-driving cars and ride-sharing programs to reduce congestion and make the air a little cleaner.
Okay, now self-driving cars, that's something I can get behind. But let's be real, with all these people moving into these cities, isn't housing going to be a problem? I mean, won't it cost a fortune to live there?
It is a concern, you're right. Affordable housing is a major issue for a lot of megacities, but they are trying to address it with things like mixed-income housing developments, rent control policies, and by giving incentives to developers to build more affordable units.
So they're trying to make sure everyone has a roof over their heads, not just the rich folks who can afford a penthouse suite overlooking the smog. Well, that's good, I guess. But what about all the other problems that come with a ton of people living together? Crime, poverty, all that stuff. You can't just ignore that.
You're absolutely right. Social problems are amplified in these dense urban environments. But many cities are trying to implement things like community policing, social programs, and job creation initiatives to fight back against these issues.
So they're actually trying to make these cities livable. I'm shocked.
Remember, these megacities are not some giant blob of concrete and people. They are made up of lots of diverse communities, each with its own challenges and opportunities.
Okay, Professor, you've convinced me that there might actually be some hope for these megacities after all. But let's be real, it's not going to be easy. Are there any other cool innovations or solutions on the horizon?
One fascinating area is the rise of these so-called smart cities. They use technology and data to improve the quality of life for residents.
Smart cities. Sounds like something out of the Jetsons. So you mean the city's basically one giant computer? What the hell does that even mean?
Well, imagine sensors that monitor traffic and change the lights in real time to prevent gridlock. Trash cans that signal when they're full, so garbage trucks can optimize their routes. It's all about using data to make the city run better.
So more efficient and automated? That sounds pretty futuristic, I gotta admit. But doesn't all that data collection kind of creep you out?
Privacy is a valid concern, absolutely. The ethical implications of this smart city technology are something people are still figuring out. It's about finding a good balance between using technology to help people and protecting individual freedoms.
Right, we don't want to end up in some Orwellian nightmare. What else is going on in the world of mega cities? Any other crazy predictions about the future?
Well, one thing is for sure, the megacities of the future are going to have to be resilient. They face a ton of threats, from climate change and pandemics to cyber attacks and running out of resources.
Damn, that's a lot to deal with. So how do we make these cities tougher? Should we all start building underground bunkers?
No bunkers necessary. Resilience is all about designing systems that can withstand shocks and adapt to changing circumstances. Things like diversifying energy sources, strengthening infrastructure, and having really solid emergency response plans, those are all critical for creating a more resilient city.
So like doomsday prepping, but for an entire city. I can dig it.
It's not just about surviving disasters, it's about creating cities that can thrive even when things are uncertain and changing all the time.
All right, Professor, you've given us a lot to think about.
Huh.
Anything else before we wrap up this megacity mayhem?
The future of megacities is definitely uncertain, but it's also full of possibilities. The choices we make today will determine what our cities will look like in the future.
Deep stuff, Professor.
Mm.
Okay, Professor, we've talked about all the crazy shit going on in these megacities, but I still gotta ask, what's the fucking point?
What do you mean?
Why are we cramming millions of people into these concrete shitholes? Wouldn't it be better if everyone just spread out a bit? More space, more fresh
Yeah.
air, maybe a couple of goats, for good measure.
The age-old debate. City life versus rural bliss.
Exactly. Give me a cabin in the woods any day.
It's a question that has been pondered for centuries, and there's no simple answer.
All right, Professor, convince me. Why are these urban hellholes worth all the trouble?
Well, for one thing, megacities are economic powerhouses.
Okay, so they make money, but what about the people who live there? Are they all miserable?
Megacities attract resources, talent, and innovation, driving progress in everything from technology and finance to art and culture.
Right. All right, I get it. They're good for the economy. But what about the people? Do they actually enjoy living in these human ant farms?
Well, happiness is subjective, but studies have shown that city dwellers have more access to opportunities, amenities, and social connections.
So it's like a trade-off, you're saying. Give up peace and quiet for excitement and opportunity.
They're also exposed to a wider range of perspectives and experiences, which can lead to greater open-mindedness and creativity.
So you swap your pickup truck for a subway pass and your backyard barbecue for a rooftop party with a bunch of hipsters?
In a nutshell, yes.
All right, I'll give you that. Cities definitely aren't boring.
But it's not just about individual happiness.
Okay, so what else is there?
Megacities play a vital role in tackling global challenges.
Really?
They are often at the forefront of efforts to combat climate change, promote sustainable development, and foster social inclusion.
So you're saying these concrete jungles could actually help save the world?
They are like giant laboratories where we can experiment with new ideas and solutions.
Huh. Testing grounds for the future of humanity. Okay, Professor, you've given me a lot to think about.
It's important to remember that megacities are complex and dynamic. They face enormous challenges, but they also offer incredible opportunities.
So they're a mixed bag, like a box of chocolates.
Yeah,
You never know what you're going to get.
it's a pretty good analogy.
All right, Professor, I think we've explored the depths of this megacity madness enough for one day. We've covered the good, the bad, and the absolutely batshit crazy. It's been a hell of a ride. So to all you listeners out there, if you're ever feeling brave enough to venture into one of these urban jungles, just remember what we talked about today. Keep your wits about you and try not to get swallowed whole by the concrete jungle. And that's it for the deep dive. Catch you on the flip side, you magnificent bastards.